All right, I accept your point. Mr. Higgins.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just let me, before I ask Ms. Stone several questions, let me just clarify this issue of lunch hour and whenever this had occurred, that it doesn't matter under the Hatch Act whether it was during the lunch or whether she invited employees. Under the Hatch Act, the administrator is not allowed to be present at a political event on or off federal property in which these activities happened if her subordinates were at the event, even if they came voluntarily, because it is considered inherently coercive. Ms. Stone, the committee has obtained internal emails between the White House and GSA regarding political presentation of Scott Jennings that he gave at GSA. I want to ask you about those, and they will appear up on screen here.
Is that
document?
Is that what this is?
Yes, it's in your packet. I'm sorry. Let me first direct your attention to the email dated January 19th, 2007, which is on page one of your documents. This email is from Jocelyn Webster, who works for Mr. Jennings at the White House, and she is writing to Tessa Truesdale. I understand that Ms. Truesdale is your confidential assistant.
Yes, she works in the administrator's office for me.
In this email, Mr. Jennings' assistant is sending a copy of Mr. Jennings' slides to GSA. And this is what Mr. Jennings' assistant says, quote, "Please do not email this out or let people see it. It is a close hold, and we're not supposed to be emailing it around," end of quote. My question is, can you tell me why Mr. Jennings' assistant says this is close hold and why you are not supposed to be emailing this around?
I can't imagine, since I'm not actually on this email. I think probably either Jocelyn or Joycelyn, I'm not sure what her name is, Joycelyn Weber, maybe Webster, or maybe Tessa Truesdale could answer that, but this isn't my email.
I would like you to look closely at the email from Mr. Jennings' assistant.
Is that the same one?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
An image of the email is up on the screen. If you look at the email address, you can see that Mr. Jennings' assistant is sending this from gwb43.com account. The gwb43.com domain is owned by the Republican National Committee. Do you know why Mr. Jennings' assistant emailed this from a Republican National Committee account instead of a White House account?
No, I do not. This is not my email, and it was not addressed to me.
Do you know of any reason why Mr. Jennings' assistant would try to hide that she was communicating from the White House?
No, I don't. I'm not familiar with her, and this is not my email. Or
let me put up another email on the screen. That's document 2-432. This is on page 2 of your packet.
Yes, I got it.
This one is from Mr. Jennings himself. He is using the Republican National Committee email account too. In this email, Mr. Jennings is using his gwb43.com account to communicate with GSA's White House liaison, J.B. Horton. My question is, were you aware that your staff was communicating with the White House officials who used email accounts controlled by the Republican National Committee?
No, I was not.
Let me show you another email on page 3 of your packet. This one is from your confidential assistant, Ms. Truesdale. She had apparently been contacted by GSA staff who wanted to do a trial run with a copy of the presentation on GSA's audiovisual equipment. Ms. Truesdale says that she can't share the document for use in a pre-meeting walkthrough. Here is what she says, quote, "I just heard back from the presenter, and as much as the information is highly sensitive, he would prefer not to email it," end of quote. Ms. Stone, the emails show that Mr. Jennings regarded the briefing as, quote, "highly sensitive," end of quote. His assistant also called them close hold, that other people should not see. Do you know why he would regard the briefing as highly sensitive?
No, I don't. I think you would have to speak to the person whose email and all this attachments that it was.
I think the answer, Mr. Chairman, is obvious. The briefing is highly secretive because it contains partisan political analysis and strategy. The White House didn't want to share their target list with Democrats, and they didn't want Democrats to know whom they regarded as most vulnerable Republican members. It's perfectly appropriate for party leaders to compose these kinds of political hit lists and to hold discussions about political strategy among party officials. It is not appropriate to use government agencies to advance partisan political agendas. Yet that is exactly what happened here. GSA's top officials were assembled to hear a presentation about targeting Democratic members in the upcoming elections. And then they discussed how GSA could help Republican candidates. And they did this in a government building during a weekday where these officials should have been doing business with the American people. Mr. Chairman, I would like to make one other observation. Mr. Jennings and other White House officials appear to be using their Republican National Committee email accounts on a routine basis to discuss politically sensitive topics. We know from documents obtained by the Judiciary Committee, for example, that Mr. Jennings used the identical Republican National Committee account to discuss the U.S. attorney firings that he was involved with. And we know this from the committee's work that the Abramoff investigation, that the White House used Republican National Committee email accounts to communicate with Mr. Abramoff and his staff. I think this is a subject the committee should investigate, and it would be a serious abuse if White House officials were using these political email accounts to subvert the requirements of the Presidential Records Act.
Has expired. Thank you, Mr. Higgins. Mr. Burton?